My wife, Amanda, and I felt the eyes of everyone on us. It was clear my sister couldn't let it go. She approached the maid of honor who was already really embarrassed and trying to clean up the mess. Even though she tried to say sorry and explain it was an accident, it wasn't. My sister kept saying she did it on purpose. She began yelling and cursing at her, then she began to cry. This caused even more people to get involved trying to calm things down. I jumped in trying to cool things off, but it just made her louder and more upset. Out of nowhere, she stepped right up to me and shoved me. I was totally caught off guard and stumbled back. I pushed back and things got out of hand fast. We ended up scuffling, grabbing at each other's shirts, and before we knew it, we were swinging at each other. Then Amanda decided to call the police. When the police showed up, they talked to a bunch of people to figure out what happened. It was really embarrassing to explain the whole fight, especially in front of all our friends and family who were there to celebrate with us. In the end, the police decided it was best for my sister and her boyfriend to leave the party. As they were being led away, my sister kept yelling about how that war of a bridesmaid ruined their day. Even though it was a relief to see her go, I also felt sad because she's still my sister. After they left, the whole mood at the wedding was pretty down. A lot of guests started to leave too, saying sorry as they went. The morning after the wedding, my phone buzzing nonstop woke me up. It was my parents calling from their vacation in Italy. They had missed the wedding for their holiday, but my sister had already called them and told them her side of the story about what happened. From what they were saying, it was obvious my parents were on my sister's side. She's always gotten her way since she was the younger sister and baby of the family. They seemed disappointed in me and expected me to fix things. The whole conversation felt pretty one-sided. Mainly because they had only heard my sister's version of the story. This kind of thing isn't new. In our family, it's always been like her word gets more weight than mine. Not only that, my parents told me I had to bail out my sister who had ended up spending the night in jail because once she was outside, she started arguing with the officers and acted like an eye-hole to them. They also said I needed to replace her boyfriend's dress that got wine-stained during the wedding, which turned out to be the dress he was planning to wear at their own future wedding. We ended up in an argument and I brought up every time they were in her favor, but they didn't see my point of view. I told them how they'd always favored my sister since we were kids. Every Christmas, it was obvious she was the favorite because she got most of the gifts while I got less. Whenever she messed up, I was blamed since I was the older brother and supposed to set the example. This pattern continued into our teen years. I always had to include her in everything I did, which made it feel like I couldn't have my own life. She was always there. In that conversation, I realized I couldn't do this anymore, and I told them to keep me out of the current mess with my sister. I said they can go F off if they expected me to bail out my sister after she ruined my wedding. The other end of the line fell silent. They said they were coming back to the US that instant and hung up. They came back from their trip that day and immediately bailed out my sister themselves. I found myself in the kitchen getting breakfast ready for Amanda. I was still thinking about the call with my parents, but I pushed it aside to focus on making this morning special for her. When I walked into the bedroom with the tray, I saw Amanda sitting up with puffy eyes from crying the night before. I set the tray down and joined her on the bed, telling her about the call with my parents. She listened. I could see she was still hurt from our ruined wedding night. I told her that we wouldn't let them ruin today too. I placed the tray on her lap, showing her favorite breakfast. Pancakes, strawberries, and whipped cream. Her eyes lit up and she smiled at me. As she started eating, I told her exactly what I knew would cheer her up, a shopping trip to her favorite stores. Amanda shook her head and said she'd love that. She was eyeing a new pair of shoes since the last time we left the mall, and I was going to get them for her. We spent the morning enjoying breakfast in bed. Later, we went out to Amanda's favorite shops. While Amanda was in the dressing room, I got a call from my sister. She was clearly drunk and started bragging. She told me our parents promised her a lot of money and valuable family property, making sure she'd get the family inheritance, not me. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said that the reason why I was jealous of her was because our parents would make sure she was set for life, and nothing that I could do would change that. She told me about $101,000 in the trust that Dad made for us, but it only had her name on in the will. She said she saw Dad's will and that they wouldn't be leaving me a dime. The call ended suddenly. And just as I was about to call back, Amanda came out of the dressing room. She asked if the dress made her look fat. I looked at her and saw how beautiful she looked. The dress fitting her perfectly. I smiled at her and I told her she looked stunning. I asked her if she wanted that one and if she was ready to go. I really wanted to go home at this point. She said we could get out of there and we did. As we were driving home, Amanda seemed happier and this made me content. When we pulled into the driveway, my heart sank. My sister, her fiancé, and our parents were all there. The tension was heavy as Amanda and I stepped out of the car. Immediately, they started demanding. My parents insisted again that we buy a new dress for my sister's fiancé and compensate her for the emotional damage from the wedding incident. I said if anything, they need to pay us for emotional damage. Amanda explained to my parents that my sister's fiancé wore white at our wedding, and my sister made things worse by proposing to her, but they didn't seem to care. My sister's fiancé took this personally and began insulting Amanda. She called her a pass-around and said she was jealous because she looked better in her dress at her wedding. She then accused Amanda of getting someone to spill the wine on her because of her jealousy. Amanda admitted that she had orchestrated the wine spill. That admission was like pouring gasoline on a fire. My sister's fiancé screamed and lunged at her. The driveway turned chaotic as she tried to attack my wife. Instinctively, I stepped between them, pushing her back to protect her. Things turned into another fight with my sister jumping in, swinging her fists. My dad threatened to call the police on us again, but that didn't stop us. Eventually, the police arrived and arrested me and my sister. They placed us both in the back of a cop car and took us to the police station. On the ride there, my sister laughed to herself. I asked her what was funny since we were going to jail. She asked, did I want to know the real reason why mom and dad didn't like me? I didn't know what to say after that, so I remained silent. She went on to say, I wasn't their real child. My father had an affair and I was the result. My real mom didn't want me, so my parents were stuck having to raise me. She called me a mistake and said that's why I would never get any inheritance. I said she was drunk and that she was just saying this. She asked me why I think I had dark eyes when everyone in our family had blue or green eyes. I still didn't pay any attention to her. She said that grandma tried to convince mom and dad to put me in the system. She said someone would take me, but it was too late. I asked her how long did she know, and she said she's always known. They told her at a very young age. I didn't know if this was just another one of her ploys to hurt me, or if this was true. Whichever was the case, this news hit me hard. The cold treatment, the favoritism, the lack of inheritance, it all made sense now. They had never truly seen me as their own child. As soon as we arrived at the police station, Amanda was there. She bailed me out and she signed some paperwork. My sister was still in her cell as I was leaving. She was screaming, telling Amanda to get her out of there. She said to ask that fiancé of hers and we left. The ride home was quiet with only the car engines filling the silence. Finally, I told Amanda what my sister had drunkenly confessed. That I was the result of an affair and raised by parents who never really considered me their own. I could see she was trying to process everything I had shared. I told her I was unsure about confronting my parents. How could I ask them, knowing they had kept such a deep secret? What would it change? These questions made me feel even more lost. Amanda reached over and held my hand. She told me she would support whatever choice I thought was right. As we pulled into our driveway, I felt a weight on my shoulders, but I knew whatever happened I had Amanda standing with me. And knowing that I felt more hopeful for our future. Update 1. 3 years later, life has taken a brighter turn. One autumn morning, Amanda came to me with a glowing smile, holding up a positive pregnancy test. I hugged her and kissed her. I was so excited to be a father. As Amanda's pregnancy progressed, we decided to renew our vows and make new happy wedding memories. We planned a simple intimate ceremony with close friends. The day of our vow renewal was perfect. The sun shone brightly over the beautiful garden where we stood. Amanda, radiant with her baby bump, walked down the aisle in a flowing dress. Her beauty took my breath away. A few months after our vow renewal, I felt my world turn upside down again. My parents died unexpectedly in a car accident. Even though we had a strained relationship, I felt a deep sadness and a sense of obligation to attend their funeral. Amanda joined me in support. At the funeral, the air felt heavy. Friends and extended family gathered to pay their respects. My sister, however, stood apart from the people mourning. She looked almost satisfied that our parents were gone. She avoided looking in my direction. Her demeanor unsettlingly detached. As the service proceeded, I couldn't shake the unease. My sister's behavior seemed out of place. I couldn't fathom her emotions, whether she was relieved, indifferent, or hiding something deeper, but her presence felt like a dark cloud over an already grim day. As the service ended, I watched my sister still keeping her distance, a faint, almost smug smile playing on her lips. After the funeral, life seemed to settle into an uneasy calm. My sister and her fiancé continued to live in their lavish mansions, seemingly untouched by the aftermath of our parents' passing. News occasionally trickled through the family grapevine about their extravagant lifestyle, but it wasn't until later that I heard troubling rumors. Word spread that they had burned through their inheritance quicker than expected. Their once larger-than-life habits were now crumbling under the weight of poor financial decisions. It came as a surprise to no one when whispers began circulating that they were now calling around to get money from family members. I received a hesitant call from a cousin one evening, sharing the news. It was unsettling to hear how quickly their money went away. The next few months, I focused on Amanda and preparing for the baby. Their inheritance would have helped a lot. I didn't know how expensive babies were until I had to prepare for one. Nesting became our shared project. Painting the nursery, assembling cribs and changing tables, and picking out tiny onesies and soft blankets. While we prepared for the baby, one day, out of the blue, my sister called, wanting to reconnect. Her voice almost sounded sincere and it caught me off guard. She said she regretted everything she had done to us and had left her fiancé. She said she wanted to mend the relationship with her brother. I listened. With a heavy heart, I quietly blocked her number. In the quiet of our home, Amanda and I chose peace. We knew that our family, built on love, was all we needed.